technology is such a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
But hey, we're making it work, and you're gonna probably hear all that shit. But whatever. I like that these aren't cut like on podcast player. So it's so entertaining. All right, let's run this shit. Cool. Are we live there? Cool. Right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
Just moving that.
welcome to Awakening Warriors podcast. It was a pretty good week, productive week for us, I feel like. I feel like I had a half-ass week because of the snowmobiling trip.
Oh.
So for the first 2 days, I didn't do anything productive. Well, productive in my eyes, at least. It obviously has value, but, it's not what I like to do as far as productivity. So, what about yours? Solid, same old shit, different day, for the most part.
My Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were, yeah.
Yeah, same for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Just worked on the rental. So, getting ready to sell the rental. So, that's super exciting. Taking money, investing in other things. I think I probably mentioned that before in a previous podcast, maybe. I don't know. I'm guessing I did, though. I feel like I did. But, yeah. Cool. Got a little thing in the middle. This thing. If you're watching this, you know, but if you're listening to it, it's just like one of the microphone things. It was a total clusterfuck. We didn't realize only one microphone was working last week. We thought it was plug and play, but it's not. And then we figured out this week on the second podcast that we have these microphones, and we dicked around with them for a while, and here we are with one. But whatever, we'll figure it out, throughout the week and move on. So, technology is great.
They can hear you because it's facing me, I think, so.
It's facing both of us for the most part, technically. But
yeah, but the review said if you're talking to the back of it, it sounds like you're under something.
We already tested it to figure that out, so that's untrue.
Okay. Well, I'm much clearer. Once we listen back, I can show you again, but that doesn't matter. We're here. We're recording.
Sounds like you're trying to have a little conflict with me. Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm definitely, I can
Feisty?
feel... Let me say the word. I'm definitely, kind of irritated just with the... That's helpful, right? Just with the technology thing, but I recognize that that's, the controller in me that wants everything to just be perfect, and that's not realistic, and so I just need to woo-saw it out, because... But we're here. Messy action. So...
Well, I was trying to give her up.
Yeah, I know. I got it. But I was still...
I was throwing it up to her to knock it out of the park.
I was going to work my way through that. Because, yes, conflict. Healthy conflict.
Yeah, is our topic of discussion this week. So, and one of the reasons is because, we like to talk about things that are, actively happening in our life. And so this is one of the things that came up is healthy conflict. And a lot of people in my, that I've watched, that I've observed, they see conflict as a very negative thing, which I don't. I actually really enjoy it to the extent of a negative thing. You know what I mean? I like to fight, I like to argue, I enjoy it. I like to get people riled up, and get under their skin, and I am a very, granted I do get to that point, but odds are, if I do get to that point, I'm going to drag you down with me to a much further degree. You know what I mean? So, if you do get under my skin, I'm going to figure out how to get under your skin way worse. Yeah. So, because the gloves are off for the most part. I'm, what, you don't think so? You don't think so?
Gloves are off just because somebody, irritated you.
Yeah.
Then that means gloves are off, and so you're just going to go ham.
Yeah.
Which I think...
Is that right? You acted like that wasn't true. Is that not true?
No, I
always state things that are accurate.
My look was because to say, they made me mad, so gloves are off, let's go. Just because you're triggered by that situation doesn't mean that automatically that, a conflict or an argument needs to happen.
I'm not saying it needs to happen. I'm saying it does happen.
And not even always, because you've grown a lot in that aspect. A ton, as far as, just starting arguments and...
Yeah, just for the fuck of it.
You definitely still like that, though.
Yeah. Because, if there's an argument to be, had, I'm not going to back down, but I'm also not at this point starting it just for the fuck of it.
Right, and that's where we're coming in with this topic of healthy conflict, because having conflict in relationships, like interpersonal relationships, is what's that word, like
Healthy?
going to happen, inevitable. You are going to have certain bits of conflict with people, and there are times,
It's natural.
yeah, and there are times when it is super healthy. Like, you need to hash it out. You need to have this conflict. You're not agreeing or whatever that case may be, and you might need to conflict it out. And as far as, like, our week, like, we generally do, like, it's easier to talk and flow through something that we've, like, been through, like, recently. And so that's where this had come up. You had asked me a couple days ago, like, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, healthy conflict, because we have been in that, I think, probably for longer than just this week, but it's been more obvious or apparent this week, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's more in our face and direct rather than indirect.
But these are also conversations which we're all human. We might not, like, handle them the most gracefully or beautifully, but the conversations and conflict, healthy conflict that we, or you mainly had, but even me kind of, was, like, necessary to, like, hash it out. Like, I have these things that I feel like I need to say, and so did this other person, and
yeah, just fucking say it and, you know, figure it out. And this comes down to kind of like, you know, society has been pussified and, you know, shit like that, right? And that's why everybody's scared of conflict and sees conflict as a negative thing. But there is such a thing as healthy conflict, because things need to be said and done and, you know, taken care of. You know, if you've got a fucking drug addict friend, you're not going to be like, yo, I don't want to fucking stir the pot or whatever else. You're like, yo, dude, what the fuck? You know, why are you doing this? Or, you know, so on and so forth. So, you know, don't be afraid to start something, I guess, you know, or, you know, be bold, I guess. Be bold.
And I think, like, what comes to mind too is, like, don't, like you said, start something, but not just out of nowhere, not just for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, these were things that needed to be said in this experience that we've had this week. And it's like, if this conversation, whether it's heated or not, is going to make us better humans, is going to, like, benefit our relationship in the long run or help you in the long run, like, then it needs to happen.
Yeah, be intentional, obviously, with it. Because I'm not just being a dick and, you know, having this conflict for no reason, right? I'm not just like, you know, I'm fucking sick of your shit, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm expressing, you know, what has been going on and what needs to go on and what, you know, from here on out will go on, or whatever the case might be. But a lot of people will just, like, be in conflict because that's what they're used to, and it's not healthy conflict. There's a very big difference between conflict and healthy conflict. Healthy conflict, or conflict, is a natural thing regardless of whether it's healthy or not. But it's up to you to make sure that it's healthy, and that you go in there with intention, you go into the conversation with intention, and not just fucking try to hurt the other person's feelings. You know, you're trying to, you know, make them see your way, and, you know, they might be trying to make you see their way, and that's healthy conflict. Whereas, like, if you're just trying to beat someone down into submission, like, that is not healthy conflict. And that's personally where I get to at points. Like, I don't, you know, like, that's where the gloves are off, right? Like, you know, I'm just like, well, you know, we're going down this road. Let's fucking go. You know, like, I don't mind. So, because typically I don't expose myself to very weak points, I guess, personally. You know, like, I'm not a very easy person to attack. You know, I'm very, you know, I'm usually more put together than the people that I'm in an argument with.
As far as, like, emotionally, you're saying?
No, even just in life. Like, you know, like, I have my shit together. Like, I have my house in order. Like, it's hard to challenge somebody with their house in order, whereas, yeah, but also emotionally. Whereas somebody that does not have their house in order, it's easier to be like, yo, you need to fix this, this, and this, and this, and this, you know. Whereas, you know, when they try to come back at me, I have my shit in line. Like, I don't fuck off. I don't, you know, I take care of business, you know. So, and, you know, you have to be able to humble yourself and know who you're talking to, because there are people that have their house in order better than I. So then, if they say something, I have to be able to, because obviously there's always roles in the conflict. There's usually, and obviously there's right in both sides, but there's, usually someone slightly more right, I should say. Somebody has a better argument than the other. You follow or no?
Yeah, to an extent, but I think, like you said, like each person is going to be right about, like in their own, and that's almost why, like when this, okay, a couple things are coming to mind for me. So one was like another piece of healthy conflict is like it doesn't have, it a lot of times doesn't involve like escalated voices and screaming and fighting and yelling and slamming doors. Like it can get exciting, sure, I guess, but like
I like exciting conflict.
In conflict, I want to come back to this too, but like you said, like societal norms or like connotation that goes with the word conflict is negative generally. People think of conflict and like, oh, that's bad. And it's clearly not. Like sometimes you just need to have that like headbutting to say what you have to say, move on.
Yeah, in order to grow and expand.
Right. And then I also wanted to come back to like the being both sides feeling like they're right. Like in this example where you and this other person were having like a heated-ish conversation, I literally like, right or wrong, I don't know, and I don't know if this was just part of like ego being nosy, but I interjected at times, but I also was just there because I was recognizing that like if anything were to come of this conversation and either one of you were to come to me with anything, it's gonna be he said. Like, so I was just there, honestly, just listening. And there were times, again, where I, like, piped in and said something here and there. But, like, for the most part, I, like, followed kind of just to, like, be able to hear the conversation as, like, and I can't say I was an objective third party in that moment, but still somebody, like, a little bit more removed because I wasn't in that direct conversation so that I could just, like, hear what was happening, like.
Yeah. For sure. And that's always helpful, to be honest, too. If you can have a true objective third party. Like you said, you weren't a true objective third party, but you were more objective than I am, So right. I was directly in it and you were partially removed. So, yeah. And another thing that I wanted to talk about that isn't really flowing at this particular moment, but like, I was talking to, I'm talking to older guys, right? And the older guys are always like, yeah, dude, we used to fucking fight, and then, like, we'd go beat each other's ass, and, loser bought the beer. Like, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Where today, like, if you fight with somebody, like, it's like, oh my God, you don't want to be, my friend, or
you don't like me.
Yeah, you don't like me, or whatever else. And, to a degree that might be true. I obviously don't like certain things about you and whatever else, but there's just I don't know, everybody's got, it comes down to thin skin, of course, like no one's got thick skin, and like I could literally go like get in a physical fight. Like I think wrestling did that to me a lot, like because you'd have to be in the ring, you'd have to, go against him, as hard as you can and beat his ass as much as you can, like, and you throw each other against the walls of the door or whatever else, and like you were just savagely fucking mean to each other, within reason, obviously, shoving each other's faces in the ground, whatever else, and then you could get off and you could have the camaraderie, and on a Wednesday or a Saturday you're fucking cheering for each other because you want each other to win. But that even made each other better because of that conflict. And this happens in all sports, right? Or all physical sports for the most part. You have that conflict as friends that will make you better, and then you can walk away with it and shake hands, and that's where it ends. Mm-hmm. One man was better and one man was worse, and that's it. Like I can fucking, you can either I get my ass beat or I beat his ass, and then that's fucking, that's where it stands. The guy who, lost, like, he's got nothing to say, he was in the wrong, that's fucking it, typically, So, like, that's the older generation style, though, and I personally appreciate that because I am more so a, I don't know, older generation person. I don't know.
I don't know how to word that.
Not a pussy. Like, I like that. Like, okay, let's go fucking settle this, and then let's, move the fuck on. Like, I ain't got a problem with that. I'm not gonna hold it against you. I think, and this goes, far, far deeper and kind of off topic, kind of, I guess. But, like this day and age, everybody's running to get a gun, right? Whereas, they just need to fucking fight it out and hash it out and, throw fists or whatever else and, move on. Just like, because if you watch, like, nature, when, like two bucks fight each other or two grizzlies fight each other, like, okay, one gets the shit kicked out of them and then, runs with the tail between his leg and the other one gets the girl kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, that even makes me think, like, herd-wise, like, animals will fight within the same herd and one will win, but they're still in the same herd.
Yeah.
Like, they're still on the same team. They're still trying to forage food and find food together. They're still traveling together. Like,
yep.
And it's just, like, this realization, like you said, like, one just came out victorious and one didn't. Like, all right, is what it is. Like,
the leader is the leader and the secondary or this or whatever is the secondary. Like, okay, you got the alpha, the leader, the protector and everything else, the one that makes the decisions, and then you have the ones that follow and listen and whatever else, and then one, maybe they come to age or maybe some, I don't know, but eventually he'll be able to beat him out and then move on. But it's not even like, if you look at that conflict, it's nothing about, it's about protecting the herd.
It's nothing personal.
Yeah, it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's nothing personal by any means. It's just part of life, and we are, if you watch nature, we are just like nature, like we're just like all the rest of the animals. Like, we think we're like so much better and whatever else, but we're not. We literally do the same things they do, and naturally.
Well, and then I think too, like, because, like, looking at, like, that conflict is bad, or, like, these are the things I'm feeling, these are what I'm, like, seeing and expressing that, like you said, as a society, we're just shied away from that. Like, if you have a problem with that person, just leave it alone, just, like, restaurant, like, no, and I think I very much used to be that way, too. I was, like, afraid of conflict. I didn't want to start fights. I didn't want to, like, be super honest with people, because what if that makes them mad? And it's interesting because, like, in that situation we found ourselves in, like, that's what I was hearing from this other person, like, taking things very personally, like, feeling like, oh, you're mad at me right now, so that means you're mad at me forever. You're mad at me about X, Y, and Z, and that means that you don't like me as a human all around, like, and that's not the case. But as somebody who came from that and has grown, like, I have compassion for that part of that person, because I very much used to be that way too. Conflict was, like, scary, but now being that I, like, who I am and what I believe and what I know, like, dude, this is good. Like, would you rather that, like, anybody just keep how they feel and what they think to themselves and have this, like, anger inside for you? Or would you rather just be like, yo, bro, like, here are the things that you're doing that's pissing me off. Here's how I feel about them. Like, I would way rather have that and that conflict and someone be honest with me and hear where they're coming from, because then you can move forward. Okay, I know where you're coming from. Here's where I'm coming from, because that pisses me off too, and now we can move forward and figure that out.
Yeah, it really comes down to honesty and stuff, and, how you deliver it, I guess, per se, in the conflict,
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So, I mean, I'm not necessarily the greatest deliverer. Well, I am. I'm just not. I'm good at how I deliver it. Like, kind of, You know what I mean?
You're very good at how you use your words. You just don't necessarily do it in a way for that other person to be able to best accept.
Yes.
Like, you are very tactful in a selfish kind of way of, like, I'm going to get across what I want to get across, and I know this is going to piss you off, so here's how it's coming out.
Yeah.
But that makes me think, too, like, a little bit, especially when it comes to healthy, of, like, knowing your audience. Like, and you may not always know your audience well enough to, like, be super tactful with it, but, like, with your spouse, with your best friend, with your children. Like, you can know kind of how to best go about some of that conflict so that it is productive and effective.
Yeah, like, you're not going to talk to a business partner the same way you are your kid. Obviously, there's two different levels of, capacity there, and there's obviously two different levels of leadership there. Like, your equals, your father, son, mother, daughter, blah, blah, blah. So.
Right. And then the dynamics of those relationships, like, can make things interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, because you never liked conflict, and I always did. And I think obviously that comes down to our childhoods. Like, I grew up in chaos. Like, I don't mind chaos because I actually, I enjoy it. I don't know if I excel in it, but I'm relatively comfortable in it.
For
Like,
sure.
I'm very like, okay, let's fucking, like I don't have a problem. Like even being on a snowmobile or whatever else and having like super close calls and whatever else. Like I am very alert and I am very, able to manage the situation. Same thing with like, conflict and whatever
Because
else.
I think for you, it comes down, like, you have a high threshold for, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that word would be, but, like, thinking about conflict,
Very
like,
big tolerance.
yeah, because, like the heart racing, and because, like, when you have, like, conflict kind of start to happen, that can happen for people. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that happened for you in this situation, but, like, even for me, I was like watching it and like being a part of that, like an observer of that. I was even impressed with myself because I didn't have that like spike in heart rate and that like all those things that normally happen when conflict's about to start. Like my stomach might get knots and whatever. I was like really like, wow, I'm like cool, calm, and collected. Like this is growth for me because normally I'd be, especially looking at the people that were in this conversation, I would have been like, oh, and all freaked out. But anyway, I think you just have a high like tolerance for
Yeah.
that. Like it takes a lot to get your adrenaline to spike, whereas like people just having that like hard conversation
Yeah.
can make their hearts race and their adrenaline spike, and
Yeah, for sure.
which is also like normal, and that's okay if that does happen. Like that
Dude, I
doesn't
love that.
that doesn't mean that it's like a bad conversation or it doesn't need to happen, or like your body's just responding to what's happening in your head. And
Yeah. This is for another episode. Because we always say that.
yeah, and I haven't been watching them back, so we're really gonna have to remember
Addictions and stuff, and how I'm like addicted to that, and how I like came through that process. I'm like, I'm really addicted to that. Like, because I never, thought of myself as an addictive personality. But we'll get to that. I'm not gonna go dive into that.
I did think
right
about
now.
that though with like the chaos piece. Like your body like is craving that.
Yeah.
And so that's why at times you would just start it. Like,
Yeah.
screw it, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a fight now.
Yeah, and I think maybe I don't think it's obviously not as near as prominent in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
For me to have that neural pathway or chemical rush,
Mm-hmm.
but it is still there to a degree. But and it also doesn't happen near as often or near as heightened. So
Agreed. Yeah, I think the conflict that, even like between you and I, that we have now is more often healthy. Like, we're still in our programming at times and have our wounding, so yeah, sometimes it's not, for sure. But
yeah,
I think more often than not, or we can at least, even if it starts that way, we can like bring it back around to like
yeah,
make it a little bit healthier.
yeah, I agree. Fuck, I was just gonna say something. Oh, the purpose of healthy conflict, healthy conflict just makes your shit stronger anyways. Like your relationships deeper and stronger because, I always had a problem with fake ass friends that aren't willing to tell me the truth. And I don't know if we discussed this or not, but like I'd rather have someone just fucking tell me flat out the truth rather than, not, just to avoid my anger, irritation, conflict, my feelings, blah blah blah, insert here, than to beat around the bush and hold that in and whatever else. Because one, it's probably not doing you any good, and two, it's definitely not be doing me any good. Because I would rather know exactly what someone is thinking, and exactly how they feel and whatever else. And then if we mesh, we mesh. If we don't, we don't. Neither of us are wasting each other's time. We're just we're either here or we're not. We're either here or we're there, type of thing. Mm-hmm. And healthy conflict allows that to happen because, everybody's saying what's on their mind, everybody's being open and honest, and, so on and so forth. And, you can just decide to sever ties or you can decide to move forward, and that's so important to me because I don't want to fucking piss my time away, with this relationship that I think is going good and find out like, oh, wow, you didn't even feel like this or, think this or, whatever. and then like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the relationship, and it's like, oh well, I just wasted all this time, and
right, none of this was real even.
Oh wait, and I say wasted loosely, right, because you learn stuff throughout that with that relationship, but it's not something that you probably could have done something better with your time as far as friends or whatever else, you know what I mean? So that's why it's one of the reasons I like conflict, I think, because then it like kind of shows your, is this relationship strong enough to make it out? And if it's not, no big deal. But if it is, awesome, So I don't know. It's just.
Well, and I think like when people want to avoid conflict too, like we said earlier, like it's inevitable. There is going to be. So if you, instead of having like these mini healthy conflict type conversations and type scenarios throughout your relationship, you just don't, and all of a sudden there's like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
Like then you have, as we've experienced, and like people just drag in all this extra stuff, and it's like, well, whoa, why didn't I hear about that then? Like, why did you hold on to that? And clearly it made you mad because you're telling me about it now, but like it would have been helpful just to have a conversation then. Yeah. Like, hey, this action that you took like was really irritating and actually pissed me off. And then you would have been like, great, now I know that. I'll do better next time. I'll make sure not to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like if that person, obviously if what they're coming to you like is true and yeah.
If it's a legitimate, obviously there's things that like has nothing to do with you, their problem or whatever. It has everything to do with them. And so you have to be weary of that and take,
keeping that in mind, for sure.
Yeah, keeping that in mind.
But, like, this specific one I'm thinking of was very, like...
Yeah, fair enough.
You could have been, like... You would have heard what they had to have said and been like, okay, like, my bad. Like, I totally will make sure that next time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, for sure. I specifically think of Ben because he's one of my longest friendships, I suppose, because I usually just outgrow people. I have a tendency of outgrowing people. Good, bad, indifferent, I don't care, I don't care. So, like, I just think of, like, many phone calls that I've had with Ben specifically, and, like, I'm just, like, super honest, like, dude, I don't want to do this, I'm going to do it anyways because of this, or, whatever, and, like, I can hear his, I'm giving him my opinion, and he's, like, in a different space, and he's, like, I don't give a shit about your opinion kind of deal, and, like, we're very... Like, I can tell when his shit changes. You know what I mean? His
like, tone
demeanor and stuff like that. Yeah, which is fair. Like, I recognize that, and so on and so forth. But there's been plenty of times with him where, and, I've never really wanted to punch him in the face like I do other people. Because he's a lot similar to me. He's very type A, and, he's got his shit together, and I don't have to fucking be worried about whether, things are going to get done and whatever else. When those things are, at risk or whatever, at bay. But it's just funny because, we just fucking say what we want to say, and like it is what it is, and it never gets overheated or whatever because neither one of us attacks each other in a way that is just attack, like it's very honest, it's like, yo, blah blah blah, you do what you want to do and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I'm like, okay, cool, like that's how we are, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful fucking relationship in my opinion because we can always just fucking straight up say, this, that, or the other thing, and although we might be offended or irritated at the moment, slightly, because I don't think we never take it to heart, but like it.
Oh yeah, I still have your.
Yeah, we still have our reactions, just like, I fucking, whatever. But then it just moves the fuck on, and
that also like brings to mind like if you're open and willing to like potentially have some healthy conflict, it generally doesn't even get that like.
Oh yeah. Like, that heightened.
Yeah, that big or that like it still may be conflict because you're not agreeing. Like we should have I guess you still can, but the technical definition of conflict, like in my head, like if you're disagreeing and having a conversation about it, that to me means conflict.
Yeah.
Because you're not
any disagreement.
It's like conflicting.
Yeah.
You're not agreeing.
Exactly. Anything like that is conflicting.
And so like that makes me think about that because like in that friendship, you guys are both very open to like potentially having this healthy conflict, or like there was a specific instance in one of my friendships where I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to like be really honest and say this thing about how I'm feeling. And that was me being open to potentially having some healthy conflict. And it didn't even get there. Like I had this conversation and then it was like, okay, like this person heard what I had to say. They were also really open to it. We're actually not like, no one's mad, no one's sad, no one's offended. Like
a lot of that has to do with the person you're speaking of and how self-aware they are too, you know.
For sure, but I think
how
even you
accepting
just
they are.
being like open to like, okay, I have this thing to say and there's a potential that some healthy conflict could follow. Like it might not, and it might still be like you might still conflict and bump heads, but like it's not, I don't know. I think just like being that open to like the healthy conflict that may follow, telling somebody how you feel or what you're thinking or what they're doing is irritating or whatever, then is going to keep it more like, can keep it. I mean, it definitely, you have your people who just want to argue and who can't take any type of constructive criticism where that then is tricky. But even that, like, it still might not get way up here if you're just like open to like.
And that, I think that comes back to the pent up stuff too. You know, like what I mean, like you were already discussing, like, you know, if you allow it to just flow, you know, as it goes, it's just like little, like,
oh yeah, that makes
versus,
sense.
you know,
little.
The floodgates are, you know, open.
Right, and then you have all this like arsenal of the things that made you mad when like we could have just had these little bits of like.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, conflict is good. Healthy conflict is definitely good. So,
and it's inevitable. So like
it's
getting
inevitable.
accepting the fact that it will come.
Especially
if it hasn't.
in a marriage, like it's constant, like not constant, but it's very consistent in a marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, because you're not the same people. Remember when we first got together and like everything was a conflict, like literally everything, because you were so far like left and I was like more so right, even more than what I am now. I don't think I'm any more left where I am, but I definitely like am open to like you do your shit, I'll do mine.
Oh yeah.
Versus
when you
like
say
you need to do this the way, you know, I say.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. And I mean
Yeah,
even
yeah.
now depending on where we are just emotionally, like yesterday, day before, like there was lots of conflict too. And I recognize though that may have just been where I was. Like I was just in a space of like everything you're doing is super freaking irritating. Like ugh. But and so just like recognizing too that, but I don't know, that also didn't turn into conflict necessarily. Like I was kind of just like pissy because I was annoyed. And
It was still conflict. We were both pissy, but we didn't feed into it. We were just like doing little, like, I think I'd call them slight jabs, I guess, you know what I mean, at each other or whatever. And you know, we weren't like feeding into it and giving it more than what it was. You know, we were both just accepting the fucking jabs and like moving on. It was yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, so and you have to make sure this, you know, your irritation, you have to be self-aware enough to recognize where the irritation is coming from, and so you're not misdirecting it, you know, because obviously projecting it, because like we've obviously been in a space where we've both been struggling with stress and irritation and whatever else. It's just that season of life and what we're currently dealing with, and I can't, you know, just jab it out on you because you know, you didn't get out of fucking bed on time or whatever, some shit like that. And yeah, so just be aware that you're conflicting again for healthy reasons and where it's coming from and whatever else. But yeah, I think that's fucking it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's good. I think we got it out. I mean, that's where we were getting. We were wrapping up. Like, conflict's inevitable. It's healthy. It's good. I would almost say, like, don't resist it, but telling you what not to do might not be helpful. Accept it, and...
Yeah, for sure. Be open to it, that's for sure. Like, you know, if someone's got something to say, because you'll know whether... I mean, usually you know whether it's bullshit or not, you know, because everybody comes up with other things that aren't accurate, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if you're self-aware to any degree, like, you should be able to recognize, like, hey, you know, this actually has some valor to what you're saying, so.
Yeah, and I think, like, if you're somebody who is afraid of conflict, like, I would almost challenge you to try to have, like, a conversation, because I, again, was somebody who was really afraid of conflict, and then when I had, like, in my mind what was one of, like, the more...
challenging conversations?
Yeah, it went really well, and that was, like, my, like, that was like my starting point of like, I am totally willing and down to have these hard
Is that your
conversations.
friendship?
Yeah.
See, now, and that just makes you like, wow, this friendship is better than I thought, type of thing.
Yeah, because we that wasn't like the end point, and we did grow from it. And even now, from that point on, like I've just felt like being honest was really good for both of us. So I'm gonna keep being really honest in this relationship. Where before I was afraid to do that because I didn't want a conflict, I didn't want to rock the boat, I didn't want to. And it's just so much more real now because I was willing to. And then that, like having that experience makes me more willing to have more of those if it's needed.
It's just like ripping the Band-Aid off kind of thing. You're just like, get it out, and then, you know, whatever happens, happens type of thing. So, yeah.
You win or you learn.
Yeah, there's no such thing as losing. So, there's also a Gary Vee thing, I think. He's like, all I do is make mistakes. He's like, you know, I make mistakes all the time. He's like, everything I do is a fucking mistake. And he's like, it's okay. He's like, you can't go through life thinking that you're never going to make mistakes. He's like, you know, just get used to them. So, there's a lot of whatever in that, but that's not even what we're talking about. So,
But you can make mistakes in relationships and stuff too, so.
yeah, for sure.
But, cool.
All right, dope.
That's what we
Episode
got.
13, right? Do we even say episode
No,
13?
we didn't even say hi.
Episode
So
13.
hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Awakening Warriors podcast.
Yeah. We said that, didn't we?
I don't think so.
Oh,
We just said it a bunch of times when we were testing out the mics.
Yeah,
Here we are.
whatevs. Fuck.
Facebook page.
Yeah. Facebook
Find us on all the
card.
socials.
Facebook page, Instagram, podcast player, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell, check it out, comment. We'd love to hear some feedback on maybe, you know, some of the conflicts you have and how you deal with it and shit like that. So.
Or if you tried it out and it went south, because that's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. And you can yell at us for saying you were a bunch of fuck ups and, you know, stuff like that. So.
We will embrace the healthy conflict if you have that to say.
Yeah, I'll probably ignore them. Probably won't, but. Alright, cool. We are out, and we will see you next week. Too bad we didn't make one on April Fool's. We're doing April Fool's. And yeah. Whatever. Anyways.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, listening, and we appreciate you all.
Sounds good. See you guys later.